My name is Lysandra Moreno. For the last 6 years, my family acted like my job was something embarrassing, something they didn't want to talk about. They only had to mention it a little bit at holidays, but even then it felt awkward. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me, where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? It all started when I graduated from Yale Law School at 25. My dad was so proud. His little girl had become a lawyer. He could hardly stop smiling. My older sister, Amity, had chosen a career in marketing. Dad tolerated that. He didn't complain, but he never really celebrated it. Marketing wasn't prestigious enough for him. But the law was different. Law was important. Law was respected. Law was something he thought made the family proud. Then I told them where I would be working. I was going to be a public defender. My dad's face changed instantly. He looked like I had just told him I wanted to become a circus performer. "Alex," he said, "it's an amazing opportunity. You graduated 3rd in your class from Yale. You had offers from every big law firm in Manhattan. Sullivan and Cromwell wanted you. Cravath wanted you. And you're choosing to defend criminals for $63,000 a year." I took a deep breath. "Dad, I'm choosing to help people who can't afford a lawyer. It's important work. It matters." My mom gently put her hand on his arm. "Dorian, maybe it's just for a year or two, like a fellowship," she said. But it wasn't just for a year or two. I spent 6 years as a public defender. I handled everything from small crimes to murder cases. I worked 100 hours a week, fighting against prosecutors with unlimited resources. And even though the cases were tough, I won more than I lost. People in the Bronx started calling me the firewall, because no matter how strong the prosecution's case looked, I always found a way to fight for my clients. But my family never really understood what I was doing. Every holiday gathering was the same. Amity would talk about her fancy marketing campaigns, her salary raises, and her corner office with a beautiful view of Central Park. My parents would smile proudly and listen with admiration. Then they would turn to me. "Still working with criminals, Alex?" My dad would ask, almost like he was asking if I was still brushing my teeth. "They're called defendants, Mom." I would reply politely. "And yes, I'm happy where I am." The disappointment from my family was always obvious. It hung in the air like a heavy fog that no one wanted to clear. 3 years ago, Amity started dating Alastair Vance. Alastair was a federal prosecutor in New York, and my father loved him instantly. Finally, there was a lawyer who put criminals in jail instead of defending them. Finally, here was someone making a lot of money at a young age. Finally, here was the kind of career my dad had always wanted for me. Alastair was going places, Dad would say at every chance. The U.S. Attorney's Office was preparing him for bigger jobs, maybe even a judgeship someday. And he wasn't wrong. Last year, at 35, Alastair was nominated to become a federal judge. Most judges weren't even close to that young. My father held a celebration dinner when the announcement came. There was champagne, speeches, and toasts about how wonderful Alastair was. I sat quietly at the end of the table, listening to my father praise a man who had been on the opposite side of 3 of my cases. Alastair had won 2. I had won 1, a very big case that had made the New York Times because I had shown the prosecutors had done something wrong. Alastair and I never talked about our courtroom battles at family dinners. It was like an unspoken rule. My family wanted to think we were just different kinds of lawyers. But in reality, we were opponents in the courtroom. 6 months ago, everything changed. I got a call from Senator Vayachin. "Ms. Moreno, the senator wants to meet you about a judicial vacancy." I thought she wanted me to recommend someone else. I had worked with dozens of talented lawyers who deserved recognition. But when I went to her office, she got straight to the point. "Lysandra, how would you feel about being a federal judge?" I blinked. "Excuse me. Judge Morrison is retiring from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals," she said. "It's a very important court just below the Supreme Court. I'm looking for someone brilliant, principled, and unafraid of powerful people. Your name keeps coming up." I was only 31. Most federal appellate judges were much older and had come from big corporate law firms. Public defenders almost never became judges at that level. "Yes," she said, "which is why we need someone like you. You've won 15 appellate cases, exposed corruption in 3 prosecutors' offices, written articles cited by the Supreme Court, and you're fearless." She handed me a folder. Inside were letters from the chief judge, the dean of Yale Law, the New York Civil Liberties Union, and 20 public defenders from 3 different states. Everyone said the same thing. I was the best legal mind of my generation. The dean of Yale wrote, "In 30 years of teaching, I have never seen a legal mind as sharp or a moral compass as true as Lysandra Moreno. I held the folder while shaking hands. She said, "Say you'll accept the nomination." Everything moved fast after that. The FBI ran a very thorough background check. The American Bar Association rated me as highly qualified. The Senate Judiciary Committee scheduled a hearing in 3 months. I told no one, not my family, not my colleagues, not even my closest friends. Judicial nominations could fail for so many reasons. A past client could cause controversy. Politics could shift. Someone could try to block the nomination. I didn't want to celebrate too soon. Then 2 weeks ago, I was confirmed by the Senate with a vote of 67 to 33. Yesterday, I was sworn in as the youngest judge ever on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. I was only 31 years old. The ceremony was private, with only the Chief Justice, Senator Chun, and a few clerks present. The press release would come out Monday morning, and until then, I had to keep it secret. My chambers were ready. My nameplate had been installed. Honorable Lysandra Moreno, Circuit Judge. Monday morning, I would have my first case assignment meeting with the Chief Justice and the other judges on the Second Circuit. That same morning was my father's retirement party. On Wednesday, 5 days before both events, my dad texted me. "Retirement party Saturday, 6 p.m., at the plaza. Black tie. Everyone important will be there." I read the text twice. My dad was retiring after 35 years at a big pharmaceutical company. Of course, I would be there. I replied, "I'll be there." "Congratulations, Dad." An hour later, another text arrived. "Actually, I need to talk to you about the party. Alex, I think it might be better if you don't come." I froze. "Not coming?" I asked. He explained, "It's a very high-profile event. Board members, investors, and Alistair's parents are coming. Amity will announce her engagement. It's a big celebration for everyone. People know you and Alistair have faced each other in court. It might make things awkward. Amity asked me to make sure the focus stays on her and Alistair. You could come to a smaller family dinner later." I almost laughed. "Dad, I've never missed a major family event. This is your retirement." "I know," he said. "But Alex, you made your choices. You defend people who belong in prison, and Alistair is a federal judge. It doesn't reflect well on the family." I took a deep breath. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was pettiness. Maybe it was curiosity. I wanted to see their faces when they realized what I had done. "Okay, Dad," I said quietly. "I won't come. Thank you for understanding. This is for the best." I hung up and looked at a framed photo of me at my law school graduation. My dad had his arm around me in the photo, smiling proudly. That was 6 years ago, before I disappointed him. I called my best friend, Thorin. "They uninvited you from your own father's retirement party?" he said. "Amity's engagement takes priority. You have to tell them. You need to tell them you're a circuit court judge." I couldn't. The press release wasn't out yet. I had a better plan. Thursday morning, I received my case assignments. My first oral argument session would be Tuesday. 3 cases, all about civil rights. I would hear them with 2 senior judges. Friday, I met with my 3 law clerks, brilliant new lawyers who would help me research and write opinions. We spent the day going through case files, organizing my chambers, and discussing judicial philosophy. One of the clerks, a young woman named Sarah, asked, "Judge Moreno, how does it feel being the youngest appellate judge in the country and coming from a public defender background?" I smiled. "It feels like I have a lot to prove," I said. "And it feels like I finally have the power to fix some of the big problems I've been fighting against for 6 years." Saturday morning, the morning of my father's retirement party, I went for a long run in Prospect Park. I thought about my dad, Amity, Alistair, and the last 6 years of being treated like a disappointment. I thought about showing up to the party and making a big scene, telling everyone I was a judge. But I decided against it. I didn't need their validation. I didn't need to prove myself at their party. I spent the afternoon reading case files for Tuesday's oral arguments. At 6 p.m., when the party was starting, I ordered Thai food and continued working. My phone buzzed. A text from Amity. "Dad said you're not coming. Probably for the best. Alistair's parents keep asking. Enjoy your evening." I didn't respond. At 8 p.m., another buzz. A photo in the family group chat. Amity and Alistair showing off a massive engagement ring, my dad beaming beside them. Caption. "So much to celebrate. Alistair's federal judgeship and our engagement. Best night ever." Dozens of comments poured in. "Congratulations. A federal judge in the family. How wonderful." I turned off my phone and went to bed early. Monday morning, I had a big day ahead. Monday morning, I woke up very early, at exactly 5 a.m. The sun wasn't even up yet. The streets outside were quiet, and the city still smelled like morning air mixed with the faint smell of coffee from the corner cafes. I got out of bed carefully, so I didn't wake anyone in the apartment. Today was very important. Today, I was officially going to become a federal appellate judge. I had been waiting for this day for a very long time, but I had kept it secret from my family and most of my friends. I went to my closet and pulled out my nicest suit. It was a black Armani, the one I had bought specifically for this ceremony. I hadn't even worn it once before. I smoothed out the jacket, straightened the pants, and polished my shoes until they shined like little mirrors. Then I went to the bathroom and had my hair done professionally. I wanted everything to look perfect. I wanted to look exactly like what I was, a judge of a very important court. By 8 a.m., I arrived at the Thurgood Marshall United States Courthouse at 40 Foley Square. I knew exactly where I was going because I had walked these halls before for meetings and small visits. But today was different. This wasn't the courthouse where Alastair, my fiancé, would be sworn in. That ceremony was for district court judges. This courthouse was for the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which is a higher court. It was bigger, older, and more serious. People whispered when they passed in the halls. Lawyers moved quickly, carrying stacks of papers and briefcases. The courthouse smelled faintly of coffee and old books, mixed with polished floors. I took the elevator up to the 15th floor. My office had a big window that looked over downtown Manhattan. I could see tall buildings, cars moving below like tiny toy cars, and people hurrying across the streets. On my office door, my nameplate gleamed in the morning light. Honorable Alexander Moreno, United States Circuit Judge. I stopped for a moment to look at it. It felt strange and amazing to see my name there. I had worked so hard for this, and now it was real. At 8:30, I walked to the conference room for a meeting with the Chief Justice and the other judges on the Second Circuit. The meeting was about case assignments for the week. We talked about which lawyers would appear for which cases, debated small rules, and reviewed motions that needed decisions. Some of the other judges were serious, and some smiled and joked a little. It was strange to feel both nervous and proud at the same time. At 9:15, my assistant Maricel knocked on my door. "Judge Moreno," she said politely. "Judge Vance just arrived for his orientation meeting. The Chief Justice is walking him over. He's here to learn about how appellate courts work, since district court judges need to understand the appeals process." I straightened my robes, which I was wearing for the first time, and took a deep breath. "Thank you, Maricel. Please show them to the conference room. I'll be right there." My robes were black, long, and heavy, and the fabric felt important and serious. I had imagined this moment so many times, but now it was real. I walked down the hallway, my shoes clicking on the polished floor. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see Alastair standing there. He wore a new suit, looking proud and confident. The Chief Justice was showing him around the courthouse, pointing at different offices and talking about how the building worked. I opened the door and said, "Good morning, Chief Justice." "Good morning, Judge Vance," the Chief Justice said. Alastair turned and looked at me. His face turned completely white. "Alex," he whispered. "Judge Moreno," the Chief Justice said gently, correcting him. "I know you know each other, Alastair, but Judge Moreno was confirmed to the Second Circuit 2 weeks ago. She will be one of the appellate judges reviewing cases from your district court." Alastair stared at me in my robes, and then at the nameplate I had brought into the room. You're a circuit court judge?" he asked slowly. "Yes, as of last week," I said calmly. "Please sit down. The Chief Justice and I are here to explain how the appellate process works." Alastair sat down, staring at me like he couldn't believe it. The Chief Justice began explaining the relationship between district courts and appellate courts. He explained how cases moved from one court to another and what district court judges should include in their decisions to make appeals easier. But Alastair wasn't listening. He kept looking at me, then the Chief Justice, then back at me. Finally, Alastair interrupted. "I'm sorry. I need to understand. Alex, Judge Moreno is on the Second Circuit? That's huge." "That's correct," the Chief Justice said. "And she's only 31 years old. 31 and brilliant," he added firmly. "Her confirmation was one of the smoothest I've seen in years. The American Bar Association gave her the highest rating. The Senate confirmed her 67 to 33, which is almost unanimous. She was a public defender before becoming a judge, and one of the best lawyers I've ever met. Judge Moreno has argued 15 appellate cases and won 13. She has exposed misconduct by prosecutors 3 times and written a lot on constitutional law. Her legal mind is exceptional. Alastair looked like he might be sick. I whispered quietly. The press release went out an hour ago. It's probably hitting the news now. Alastair pulled out his phone with shaking hands. His face went even paler as he scrolled. Oh my God, he whispered. Oh my God. Amity, your father. What about them? The Chief Justice asked, confused. They're my fiancée and her father, Alastair said faintly. They don't know. Don't know what? That Alex, that Judge Moreno is on the Second Circuit, I said calmly. The Chief Justice looked at me, and then at Alastair. Slowly, understanding dawned. I see. Well, they'll know now, I whispered. It's the front page of the New York Times legal section. At 31, Alexander Moreno became the youngest Second Circuit judge in history, breaking barriers as a former public defender. Alastair's phone was blowing up with messages. My phone is exploding, he said. Everyone I know is texting me. Amity is calling. Your father is calling. He looked at me. Why didn't you tell them? They didn't ask, I said simply. And I was told to keep it secret until the press release came out. At the party, Amity announced our engagement. I was celebrating my appointment. That's all. Alastair tried to explain. If we'd known you were a circuit court judge, you wouldn't have been left out of the party. I finished for him. Interesting, Alastair, my career didn't change. My accomplishments didn't change. Only your opinion of them did. I checked my phone. I had 94 missed calls and over 200 text messages. The messages were from Amity, my parents, Alastair, and other family members. Maricel knocked on my door again. Judge Moreno, reporters are in the lobby. They want to interview you. And a woman claiming to be your sister wants to see you. Tell the reporters I'll give a statement this afternoon. Tell my sister I'm in a judicial proceeding and cannot be disturbed, I said. At noon, I finally looked at my messages. Amity's texts went from confused to angry. Alex, call me now. Why didn't you tell us? Alastair is embarrassed. Everyone at his ceremony is talking about you instead of him. Dad is in shock. How could you do this to us? You made everything about yourself. My father's messages were similar. Alexandra, we need to talk immediately. I just read the New York Times. Is this real? Everyone thinks we didn't know our own daughter was appointed to the Second Circuit. We look foolish. My mother's texts were the most emotional. Alex, please call. Your father is devastated. Amity is crying. This is a disaster. Why didn't you tell us? We could have celebrated together. The family group chat was complete chaos. Aunt Seraphine wrote, Did everyone know about Alex except us? Uncle Darius said, A circuit court judge. That's higher than Alastair's job. Cousin Zephyrus said, Wait, I thought Alex was just a public defender. Amity replied, She was. She hid this from us. Uncle Darius added, Actually, this is amazing. A Second Circuit judge at 31. Historic. I turned off my phone and went to lunch with 2 senior judges who had been on the Second Circuit for more than 10 years. We heard about your family situation, Judge Chin said kindly. Courts are small communities. Word travels. It's complicated. It always is, I said. Judge Corwin added, For what it's worth, I've read your work. Your appellate briefs from your public defender days are taught at Harvard Law. You deserve to be here. Judge Chin leaned in and whispered, Between us, Alastair Vance is a good district judge, but he's not ready for the Second Circuit. You are. Don't let family drama make you doubt yourself. By Tuesday morning, the story was everywhere. The New York Times ran a feature. From public defender to federal appellate judge, Alexander Moreno's unlikely journey. The Washington Post wrote, Why we need more judges like Alexander Moreno. NPR interviewed Senator Chin, praising my legal skills. CNN said I was the youngest Second Circuit judge ever, and one of the few former public defenders on any appellate court. In the middle of all this, a small note mentioned that my sister Amity was engaged to Judge Alastair Vance, who was sworn in on Monday. My family couldn't be reached for comment. My phone never stopped ringing. I kept it off and focused on my work. Tuesday morning, I heard my first oral arguments. 3 cases, all about civil rights violations. I asked tough questions, challenged both sides, and felt the weight of my responsibility. After the arguments, Judge Corwin found me in my office. You were amazing, he said. Tough questions, clear thinking, real engagement. You're a natural. Thank you, I said. It should feel heavy, he said. You're deciding people's lives, rights, and futures. When it stops feeling heavy, that's when you should step down. That evening, my mother showed up at the courthouse. Security called me. Judge Moreno, there's Amara Moreno in the lobby. She says she's your mother. I hesitated. Then I said, send her up. My mom came into my office looking very tired. She had been crying. Her face was red, and her eyes looked swollen from tears. Alex, she said in a shaky voice, please, we need to talk. I motioned for her to sit down in the chair across from me. I could see she felt nervous, and she didn't know how to start. Your dad didn't mean to hurt you, she began slowly. He just didn't understand. Didn't understand what, Mom? I asked. That you were good at your work. That you were successful. That you deserved respect. We thought you were throwing your career away. Public defenders don't usually become judges. They just don't. But I did, I said firmly. You never told me that you were even thinking about me becoming a judge. You never asked about my work except to tell me I was wasting my time. You never asked about my cases, my wins, or the things I had achieved. You compared me to Alistair and said I was not good enough without even seeing what I had actually done. My mom's face crumpled, and she began crying harder. Your dad uninvited you from his party because he was ashamed of you. And now everyone knows that he did not invite a Second Circuit judge to his retirement party. He should feel embarrassed. He really should, I said, trying to make her understand. Alex, Mom said softly, reaching for my hand. I love you, Mom, I said, but I am tired of saying sorry for being a disappointment when I have done something amazing. I am one of the most powerful judges in the country. I'm only 31 years old. I got here because I worked very hard, I was smart, and I did what I believed was right. And you didn't see it because you were too busy feeling embarrassed by me. We want to make this right, she said, her voice small and sad. How? I asked. By being proud of me now, just because other people are impressed? By clapping for me now that it makes you look good? I asked. She did not have an answer. I need you to leave, Mom. I have work to do. When can we see each other and talk properly? I don't know. I'll call you when I'm ready, she said, her voice breaking. After she left, I walked to the window of my office and looked out at Manhattan. The city stretched out under the evening sky, lights twinkling like tiny stars. This was the city where I had spent 6 years being treated like a failure by my family while secretly building something amazing. My phone buzzed on my desk. I turned it on to check messages from my clerks, the people who helped me at work. One text was from Alistair. Alex, I need to talk to you. Not about family stuff. About a case. I picked up my phone and called him back. What case? I asked. I have a criminal case coming up next week. The defendant says the prosecutors didn't do their job properly. Her lawyer showed 3 examples where you found the same problems when you were a public defender. I read the motion. I think she is right. The prosecutors didn't follow the rules. But if I rule in her favor, the U.S. Attorney's Office might appeal, and it could come to you. I want to know how you would rule. No, I said. I want to know something else. I want to know if I can be a judge who does the right thing, even if it's hard, the way you did when you were a public defender. I was quiet for a moment, thinking about everything I had been through. Alistair, you don't need my permission to be a good judge. You just need to read the law, look at the facts, and decide what is right. That is the job, I told him. Your family is mad at you, he said. Amity says you embarrassed her on purpose. That you could have told us about your judgeship, but didn't. Do you think that is true? He paused. I think you made your own path while we were too busy judging you to notice. And I think I owe you an apology, Alistair. I am serious. I have been opposing you in court for 3 years. I won some. You won some. But I never respected you the way I should have. I saw a public defender, and I assumed. I don't know. I assumed you weren't serious or talented. That was wrong. Thank you for saying that, I said quietly. For what it's worth, everyone at the courthouse is talking about you. The clerks are excited that a former public defender is on the circuit. The other judges are impressed by your work. You already changed things in the courthouse, and you have only been a judge for less than a week, he said. After we hung up, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness yet, but maybe the beginning of understanding. 3 months later, I was in my chambers, my office, preparing for oral arguments when Maricel knocked on the door. Judge Moreno, your dad is in the lobby. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it is important, she said. I thought about telling him to leave. Then I said, give me 5 minutes, then send him up. My dad came in. He looked older than I remembered. His hair was grayer, and his face had more lines. He was carrying a folder with papers. Lysandra, thank you for seeing me. You have 15 minutes. I have oral arguments at 2, he said. He sat down across from my desk. He looked around at my chambers, at the law books on the shelves, the framed opinions I had already written, and the photo of me being sworn in as a judge. "I came to apologize," he said quietly. "Not a quick apology. A real one." I waited silently. "I spent 35 years in business," he began. "I learned how to figure out what was important, what wasn't, who mattered, who didn't. It made me successful. But it also made me blind." He opened the folder. "I have been reading about you. Everything I could find. Your cases, your appellate briefs, your law review articles. Did you know your work is taught at 5 law schools?" "Yes," I said softly. "Harvard, Yale, Colia, Stanford, and Berkeley too. I called the dean at Yale. She said you were the best student she had taught in 30 years. She couldn't believe we weren't celebrating you constantly." He pulled out a printed article. "This is from the National Law Journal. They ranked you as one of the 40 most important lawyers under 40 in America. You're number 12. Alastair is number 37. Dad, let me finish. I was proud of Alastair because he fit what I understood as success. But I didn't see that you had done something much rarer. You changed the system. You helped people who had no one else. You did it so well that you got appointed to one of the most important courts in the country at 31 years old. I was wrong, Lysandra. Not just about the party. About 6 years of treating you like you had failed when you were actually succeeding. I'm sorry." "Thank you," I said quietly. "I know I can't fix this with just one conversation. I know I hurt you deeply. But I want to try if you will let me," he said. I thought about it. 6 years of disappointment. The retirement party. Being treated like an embarrassment. But I also thought about my mom's visit, Alastair's call, and the article my dad had brought showing he had really learned about my career. "I'll think about it," I said. "But Dad, you need to understand something. My work isn't less important just because it doesn't look like yours. My success isn't less valuable because I helped people instead of making money. If you can't understand that, we cannot move forward." "I understand now," he said. "I should have understood 6 years ago." After he left, I returned to preparing for my oral arguments. The case was about qualified immunity. Whether police officers could be sued for breaking people's constitutional rights. It was exactly the kind of system problem I had fought against as a public defender. Now I had the power to make change. That evening, I had dinner with Thorin, my friend from law school who had always supported me. "How does it feel?" he asked. 3 months in. "Heavy," I said. "Important, right? Your family is slowly getting there. Are you happy?" I thought about my office, my clerks, my colleagues, the arguments I had pushed lawyers to defend, the opinions I had written that would change the law, and waking up every day knowing I was doing exactly what I was meant to do. "Yes," I said. "I'm happy." My phone buzzed. It was a text from Amity. "Can we meet for coffee? I owe you an apology. A real one." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Saturday at 10 o'clock. There's a place in Brooklyn I like." Her reply was quick. "I'll be there." "Thank you, Alex." I set my phone down and looked out at the Manhattan skyline, the same view I had seen every day in my chambers for 3 months. My family had thought I was a failure. They excluded me, ignored me, treated my career like it didn't matter. But I had built something amazing. I had changed lives, protected rights, and earned one of the most important jobs in the American legal system. I was the Honorable Alexander Moreno, United States Circuit Judge for the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. And I got here not despite being a public defender, but because of it. I had shown that success doesn't always look like what your family expects. Sometimes it looks like helping people everyone else ignores. Sometimes it looks like fighting hard in a place with little support. Sometimes it looks like doing what is right instead of what is easy. And sometimes if you are smart, dedicated, and a little lucky, that path takes you exactly where you are supposed to be. My chambers, my courtroom, my chance to change the system from the inside. They had not invited me to the party. I built my own.